failing power supply, or
No, I
this is a
think that's
laptop?
I think that's probably got something to do with Microsoft, because I've had that on some machines as well.
Yeah, but if I go into
Hold on a second. For those of you online, the reason we just now came back is Microsoft rebooted the computer. So to finish up with what we're talking about, we wanted to let you guys know, boy, Microsoft takes over a computer. That's another reason to try to React OS. So back to your question, David. Now that we're back online.
So we were talking about Windows 10 updates, and we had an example of it right here with
Computer rebooted without our knowledge. It just did its thing. I'll check it later and see what it did.
And so maybe we need to bring a Mac up here for handling this.
Well, since we can't build one, that's not going to happen. This is build or buy. We've had Mac up here before.
But
I think
so we're talking about a woman whose computer at first exhibited all of these symptoms of being a blacked out screen after her unknowingly accepting or experiencing a Windows 10 update. But then when the computer finally did come on about a day later, and after I, using TeamViewer, checked her Windows update history, it showed no updates completed or failed since December.
What I would suggest, and this is something that's come up before, we did a video a few weeks on this, it was about Windows Update not working. And what I would suggest is run the Windows Update troubleshooter. We also had some comment on this from, John and, well, I just went blank, and I'm sure I'll probably hear from her. She gave us some feedback about what was going on with Windows, because I made the comment that there was an issue with the when Windows updates, the computer has to stay alive. If the computer goes into power saving mode or sleep mode, then it's in this quandary of, well, I need to do an update. I'm asleep, so I can't update. Sue Oslin.
Yeah.
Sue had commented that Microsoft was supposed to change that with the, I believe, 1709, so that it would keep the computer alive. Now, if it is actually doing that, great. But my concern is, if Windows Update is not working, it appears to be hung, the Windows Update troubleshooter needs to be run. We've got a video up. We did that, let's see, that was back January the 28th. And it's a process of three things. One, run disk cleanup. Two, change the power profile, which you may not have to do now. But number three, download the Windows Update troubleshooter and run it. When Microsoft updates our computers, it takes all this junk and puts it on there. If that junk gets corrupted, it sits there and churns trying to re-download something that it already has that's messed up. And by running this update troubleshooter, it deletes all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation.
And then it starts over with clean, because unless you change your defaults, your computer may be downloading stuff from who knows where, not just you, and you may be sending some of that stuff to who knows where, not just your own network, unless you change those defaults. So if for some reason those files get corrupted, for example, I had it on one computer that was a mess that solved a problem. I had another computer that I thought was fine. The Windows Update troubleshooter said there's a problem here. When I cleaned it up, those updates started working.
So if we're running any version of Windows 10,
any
right
version
now,
of Windows 10, Home or Pro,
and if we know that an update's coming soon, and it is, should we proactively go in and run Windows Update troubleshooter?
I would, because based on the machines I run it on, I have found it cleaned up some problems that I didn't know I had. So that the next time I ran the updates, they actually ran finished in a timely manner.
When you run Windows
Update
troubleshooter, it, as part of it, it does run disk cleanup, or are you saying run that separately? That's
a separate thing you've got to do,
okay.
Run disk cleanup. Because part of what you're doing with disk cleanup, you may still have an old installation of Windows that's taking up space. It's great to think that we can go back, but that ain't going to happen with Windows. Yeah. Microsoft pushes us forward, kicking and screaming.
So use Windows disk cleanup
to
get rid of the old operating system folder?
Get rid of the old junk, whatever's there.
Well, there is an old operating system folder on
There
once
will
you've
be.
done that.
There will be. What you've got, let me show it on
So
this.
after you've done your Windows 10 update to the latest version, should you go, if you're confident that you're not going to go back and that it's running okay, should you, say a week down the road, go ahead and go into disk cleanup and remove that old system file?
I would.
Because it's going to take up three or more gigs, or
Easy.
maybe 13, who knows?
And part of the process of the Windows Update Troubleshooter, once it's cleaned that stuff out, it'll start that process and start pulling down that next download. So it'll be clean. Otherwise, it can sit there and churn. I had a couple of computers that just kept like churning but never would finish, and I didn't understand why. And when I found out about the Windows Update Troubleshooter and ran it, I was surprised how easy it was. It was something that I thought, well, that ought to have been installed in Windows to done in the first place.
Now, most of us don't, some of us do have tremendous amounts of data on our computers, and some of us offload a lot of that to the cloud or to external drives or something or other. But
Right.
For the last several years, when we buy laptops or desktops, increasingly the hard drive sizes have been,
Well, people with laptops,
growing and growing to 1 tera,
I think people with laptops are better attuned at saving their stuff by default to an external drive. Those of us with a desktop are a little bit lazy and tend to save it to that machine.
And well, my point being that if you're used to having a conventional spinning platter hard drive that's
Yes.
1 terabyte, and you look and you're only using 131 gigs of space,
Out of a 1 terabyte.
then it might behoove you to go ahead and get a SSD that's 250 gigs. And that's going to be all the space you're ever going to use. And these days you can get the Samsung, well, right now the Samsung, the consumer, the Evo, you can get the Evo 850, 860, and maybe you can get the 960 now.
Is the
I'm not
960
sure, but
available?
970.
970, is
But-
that available
but
yet?
I don't know, but you can get still get the 750 and the 850, and the 750, 250 gigs, best price around, and that you can get it. Micro Center always has the best price, even on internet. It's about $69, or you can spend $5 more and get the 860 for 250 gigs, and the reason I keep pushing Samsung is that it comes with a real nifty software package that 2 components. One of them is a called Samsung Samsung Magician, and once you have an internal drive on it, it can tell you a lot of information about your internal SSD. But if you clone whatever drive that you have in your computer now to a new Samsung SSD, you can use their data migration tool, which does just a real nice cloning job of then you can turn around and take your old drive out of your computer, put the new drive in there just for $75, and you've got something that's dependable, that doesn't produce as much heat as your old spinning platter drive, and it doesn't burn your thighs when you have it on your legs. And then turn around and buy you another 75 that's actually going to be your backup from here on, and just do periodic clones of it.
You mentioned the 970. I'm looking here at B&H, and they say it's coming. They don't have it yet.
Okay.
Give an idea. They're talking May the 7th. That's coming pretty quick.
But you're looking at NVMEs there.
Right. That's
Yeah.
the only thing I've seen in 970. I don't see a straight 970
But
SSD.
if you buy a SATA, an Evo SATA, and then an external You can spend $10 for an external enclosure.
And I like going that way because that keeps it portable. You know, what if you want to do something else with it? And I think we looked at one of those one time. Al, did you get much out of this today? There's been a lot of stuff we talked about, but we didn't zero in on really too much of any one thing, because this NVMe stuff that we're going to get into, Robert has an image. You want to show it right quick, Robert? I mean, once you've ever used an NVMe drive, you don't ever want to go back.
And I want to speak to something else about Windows before we get through.
Sure, go ahead while we're hooking up.
Okay, so Windows has a new process that's coming your way that, and I forget the name of it. It's not auto-complete. It's auto something or other. And
Where to?
It will allow you to
go to the top.
Revert to a previous system setup on the fly. And,
Those two.
Okay.
yeah, and that'll be coming with the fall update. So we're the spring update now, fall update. It sounds to me kind of like Windows Time Machine, and I mean Apple's Time Machine and the Mac OS, but somewhat different. I'll tell you more about it when I learn more about it.
Just a minute. Keep talking. I'm trying to hook up a mic.
Well, let's see. So who has a new phone in
Stick that
here?
in your pocket.
Anybody have a new phone this week?
Try that.
Well, how
Does that
new is
work?
your phone? Well, I mean, how long have you had it? 2 weeks. Okay. So you've got a Samsung 9S, and who's your carrier? Verizon. And did you buy it through Verizon? You bought it at Best Buy for.
Okay, David, what was the question? What was the question?
Well,
Problem is, I don't remember the less money, but it was. I felt like I saved a couple $100 by going to Best Buy, which the discount allegedly is from Verizon.
So that's a Samsung.
Sounds
9S.
ridiculous, but yeah.
Okay, Robert's got something he's going to show us
All
right
right.
quick about the NVMe drive, so hold that thought. Yes, Robert.
Okay, this is, can you hear me? Is this thing working?
Hold on. Let me move it up a little bit. Just a minute. Try that.
Is this better?
It'll get better.
No?
Give me a minute.
Well, I can hold it. Is this better? Yes, okay. This is something that's of interest to me. I was very concerned about these solid state drives years ago, that they wear out. And so I don't really know what the operating system is doing, but I suspect that there's some place that it's reading something over and over again, just waiting for something to happen. And that's probably in the RAM rather than on the disk or something, but I still was concerned that there may be something in the computer that's just going to chew up this SSD, because they do wear out. And so Gil assured me a few years ago, well, the numbers have gotten so big that you don't have to worry about that anymore. So this is just going back to that. The mean time between failures, or to failure, there are two ways to rate it, is in the millions of hours these days. And so I did this for 1 million, and I think the two that you find in the chart we're getting ready to go to are 1.5 and 1.6 million. And the point is, what is 1 million hours? Well, it's a lot of days, and it's a lot of weeks, and it's a lot of months, and it turns out it's a lot of years. So I think it's true that you don't have to worry too much about the operating system or anything you're doing is going to wear out your solid state memory. Now we can go to the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this the one?
Yes. Is there any way to make that bigger? Yeah, okay, so we can start at the top and scroll down. I went to Newegg, and from Newegg you can select some things to compare. And to my way of thinking, there seem to be 3 vendors for NVMe.
Western Digital, Intel, and Samsung.
Right, and Samsung has 2 lines, so that essentially gives you 4 choices.
It's the Evo and the Pro.
Yeah, and so the question is, well, what are they these days? What difference does it make? And so I selected a dozen parameters out of the comparison list and made this up. So this is about half the size that you get if you went and did the compare. So the first thing is I'm not looking to buy one at this point, and so I don't really care what the price is. So the price is shown up there, but I don't know if I've selected the same size. There's half a gig, or tell you half, and half. Okay, I did manage to get all the same size devices, so that makes the prices then are comparable.
They're all the same form factor, same capacity, same interface. PCI Express 4-lane.
This one is showing a little bit different. That just may be the way they choose to say it. I'm not sure that it is a difference.
It's the same.
Okay, but the thing that I look at in SSDs is right here. How fast is it?
Yep.
And so there's a number that's around 2,400. I guess that's 2,000. Here we go. If you look at the Samsungs, 3,200 and 3,500. This is the more expensive Samsung line. This is the cheaper Samsung line. That's a little bit faster, and this is a little bit faster. So if they're not in the thousands, and it might as well be in the 3,000s, then I don't see any point in looking at it. And this isn't. So that is Intel. They're just not competitive. Doesn't matter if it costs half as much. The only reason to do this is to get fast and never look back. And here you're going to buy something that's half fast. Somebody's getting ready to fall down. And so this is similar. So the conclusion is that Samsung is still the vendor. If you're willing to pay for the better unit here, then and you can see it's $100. I'm not. I'm waiting for these things to get down to $100. I don't know if I'm going to live that long or not, but that's still what I'm waiting for. So this to me is where you look, and it's either they caught up to Samsung, or Samsung's made a faster one or something. The rest of the parameters don't matter so much. Can we get back to the chart and see what else is on there?
I'm coming.
Okay, one vendor specifies the mean time to failure. So that's not quite the same thing as mean time between failures, but they're very similar. And that's got 1.75. Well, I didn't calculate that. I get 1.6 and 1.5. So let's scroll on up. It's interesting that this one won't work with Windows 7. So there's another reason I don't need to worry about that, because I don't think I'm ever going to Windows 10. If you listen to what's been said today, over and over again, they keep saying, gee, Windows 10 really doesn't work. And I agree. I agreed with that a year ago. So I haven't gone there. I don't want to. Power consumption. See, there was one other thing that was significant. Oh, I guess it was down here. Let's scroll up a little bit. Shock and vibration. They're all about the same, but those are mighty small numbers. So I'm just surprised they've put this in a laptop. You might drop it 6 inches or a foot because it might get a little bit of shock. And you look at vibration. This is 5 grams, which is not much. Maybe that's the weight of an aspirin pill. 2 grams. Here's a shock. That's quite a few G's. That's a big one. But I'm just surprised at how delicate these things are for being solid state. And they're not all the same. These are the same because it's the same vendor. But I don't know what that is or how it's different. But here's the 1.6 million and the 1.5. And now we saw 1.75 is more. But for my money, the Samsung is the only real vendor.
Samsung has the best warranty on it, too.
I'm sorry?
Samsung has the best warranty.
Yeah. So I guess that's, you can go scroll on up, see if there's anything else down there of any interest. I put this down just to identify the columns again, since it's scrolled off. So anyway, I've heard of new vendors. Intel's out there, Western Digital's out there, and I said, well, what are they? And I did this morning and said, well, as far as I'm concerned, there's still only Samsung. But
Plexter also makes one. The Plexters are the one I understand that are overheating.
Well, it didn't show up in this chart, or if it did, I didn't see it. What I did was to search. I first searched for NVMe.
Right.
And you won't find it because Newegg doesn't list things as NVMe. But if you'll search for M.2, then you find them. So I found in the first dozen or so these. If Plexer is in that list, it's further down, and I just didn't see it. But at any rate, I checked today, and they were my conclusions. And as I end most my emails that I send out, YO, you're on your own.
And once you've gone with an NVMe drive, which is a PCI Express 3.0x4, once you've done one of those that's 3,200 or 3,500 megabyte, you just don't want to go back.
Well, that's kind of my plan. I have an SSD in each of my computers at this point for the C drive. And like I say, you can see it. I don't see it on the boot. I don't know what happened, but I went to a 10-minute boot earlier this week, and I'm still there.
Ouch.
That's with an SSD. But you can still see the launch when you start a process. It's different from a rotating disk than it is with an SSD. And I figure I'll make someday I'll step up to an NVMe drive, and then I figure I'm there. And again, my strategy is different. My computer has many hard drives in it, or many storage devices. So for my C drive, I just want something big enough to hold the installed software. And these days, when I do every Wednesday at 12:30, a backup of the operating system takes 148 gigabytes. So I can put 148 gigabytes on a 256 gigabyte stick, or a 512 gigabyte stick, or a 1 terabyte gigabyte stick, but that's my C drive. And so that's what the NVMe that I'm looking for. I'll probably get a 256 or a 512.
So when you go to build or buy them, your machine is still working.
Yeah.
Smart way to use the time.
Yeah.
So Al, where are you at now with all this? Are you looking at the desktop first or the laptop first? Thanks, Robert.
I'm looking at the laptop first.
Can we get a mic back there on Al? Where are they at? Thank you, Mel. Thanks, Ben.
I'm looking at a laptop first, and after hearing today, I'm not sure I want to buy one right now or whether I want to wait a month or two.
I would give it just a little more time because the new stuff's coming out. Now, the new stuff is kind of expensive, but I would give it just a little more time because you have very limited options. For example, what I showed you a while ago is just, I looked at one model. If I go and take that same information and instead of looking at the MSI GS65, I'm going to go look at the i7. Now, the vendor that I said I like the best is probably an ASUS. The model you're going to see that ASUS has for this, I don't care for at all. Now, there's a Dell that's new showing up. No specs, nothing about it, just it's coming. There's another Dell. These are new. Here's an ASUS for $1,000. It's got 8 gigs of memory and 128 gig NVMe. That just stinks. They call it an expert pick, B&H exclusive. I don't want a computer that I need to upgrade. If I go on through these, see Dell's got some that are coming out. The first ones we heard out of CES were the Dells, but we're not seeing them on the market yet. The first ones we're seeing are MSI. Gigabit's got one that looks pretty good. If I were to look at another laptop, I would strongly consider a Gigabyte. Now, I've looked at a Gigabyte laptop in the past, but after going through the specs and reading other people's experiences, I kicked the Gigabyte loose. And the vendor I would have to go to at that time, which was last year, would have probably been Newegg. Newegg is not one of the first places I'd go buy a laptop from. I want to buy a laptop from someone that I have some confidence in. Costco, 90-day return policy. Micro Center, more acceptable. I think you got 15 days, but they do a 20% restocking fee. I've bought a lot of stuff from B&H. I've never had any trouble with them, but I've never bought a laptop from them. But everything I've bought from B&H, I've had good luck with. So I would be inclined to buy from these folks. I might even look at buying a laptop from Amazon. Either if I'm buying direct from Amazon, though, I'm going to pay tax on it. If I buy from one of the other vendors and Amazon's fulfilling it, I wouldn't pay the tax. But if there's an issue with return, I've got that 30-day. So you have to remember, whatever you're buying, the 30-day, that's with the vendor you're buying from. After that, you're dealing with the manufacturer. 1-year warranty, whatever it is. The best warranty anybody's got, hands down, is Costco. Costco does not have the latest stuff right now, but they're clearing stuff out, and I think they're getting ready to. This laptop, I bought it at Costco. The other laptop, the Lenovo Flex 5, that also came from Costco because I got a 90-day return policy. To me, that's worth every penny. But to buy that next laptop, if I buy this MSI, I'm probably going to get it. If I get it, I'm probably going to buy it from B&H. And it's the laptop I'm leaning toward. But if you look at the models, if you go searching for just that information, which is the i7-8750H, that's the 6-core processor, and you can see what shows up. Now here's an Asus Republic of Gamers, 16 gigs of memory, 256 gig SSD. I would rather have one NVMe drive than to have 2 drives, because if you'll notice, the second drive in there is the SSHD, and I don't like those drives. That's a combination SSD hard drive, and I just don't like them. I'd rather have one way or the other, an SSD or a spinning drive. And some of the machines that have 2 drives, that second drive is spinning at 5,400 RPM, which just reeks. But for $2,200, that's what I'm looking at. Now, I'll bet you if we go look at the weight of this, this is going to be on the heavy side. This is probably going to be in the 6 to 7 pound range, maybe 5. We're going to double check it. It'll be the very last thing at the bottom, if they tell us. Weight not specified, so we don't know. Everything is still in a work in progress. You know, it's a laptop that I want to know more about, but you know, for $2,200, I would lean toward the MSI because it's thin, it's lightweight. But this is just looking according to the processor. I do the same. This looking for the processor, I would do it every place I'm looking at. For example, if I go look for that processor at Costco, I will not see, but I'll keep looking, but I'll show you what I do get. If I say, show me an 8750, it'll show me an 8700K, which is not the same thing. And that's a couple of iBuyPower computers, desktops. So they don't have anything yet. But I would turn around and do the same thing at Newegg. I go Newegg, say, show me what you got. I'll go to Newegg and I'll do a search for that processor. I want to see what pops up. I see Gigabyte. I see some stuff about Thunderbolt. I'm waiting for it to do a search. It's like watching grass grow. I see Gigabyte, Asus, MSI. Now, right now they say featured. So I'm going to say it's a little early, but I'd say show me best selling. I want to see what everybody else is buying. Asus, MSI. I'd go to Amazon, do the same thing. So, okay, Amazon, show me. Now, the last time I did this at Amazon, which was last week, there was nothing. Okay, CUK, that is a particular vendor. CUK is Computer Upgrade King. Specialty configurations, 250 gig NVMe. I would rather have that to be a 512. And here's a Gigabyte Aero, $2,300. Specs look good, but the price sucks. Here's an MSI GE63. Now the MSI GS65 is the one that's thin. And I really like the idea of a powerful laptop that's thin with 6 cores. 3 years, maybe 4, because the technology is moving so fast. It's just hard to say how we're going to go. Now, as Robert pointed out, what we're getting is more cores because they can't get them faster. I've read some technology, I think it was Extreme Technology, that said they think they've overcome that, where we're going to be able to get past that Murphy's Law, and they're going to start making them faster. Believe it when I see it. We're still, 3 to 5 years out the window. So dealing with what we've got right now, I want something that's going to work for the next 3 to 5 years. And that was always the adage, whatever kind of computer you're buying, buy as much as you think you can afford and go from there. Does anybody have any more questions? I know we ran a little long today. We put the stream back up because Microsoft, thank you Microsoft, they rebooted our streaming computer. That's another reason to use a professional streaming solution instead of a computer, so we don't have to deal with that. And that's a distinct possibility. But as I said, go through these different vendors, and that's what you're looking for. Now, all this information we've talked about is talking points. What I'll do is on our Build or Buy on YouTube, I will put these in the header under there this weekend so you can go through and search for this information. But all this is about information. It's in play. There's a lot of things going on. Whether you build a desktop or whether you buy a laptop, this is a great time to be looking, but I would give it just a little bit more time.
I got one question. I want to search for the information. Would you go over one more time how I can search back places for certain things?
Sure, like what would you like to look for?
Okay, how to how to reinstall your operating system.
How to reinstall the operating system. Well, let's see, we have, I don't think we've done a video for that. A place I would go look is just on YouTube about reinstalling.
Oh, I was thinking in terms of looking on Build or Buy. Is there any way to search Build or Buy information?
In terms of Build or Buy, I would say probably look at our videos. We've got several up there. Like the Sling TV, for example, we did once about print spooler logging. We've got one up about Ray's machine, the Lenovo Flex. We looked at some routers, the Netgear router. Now, we also have the Build or Buy website. I'll show you that real quick. As John Lum pointed out, the information on Build or Buy right now today is not current because I decided last night I wanted to sleep. It takes about 3 hours to do this. But what I usually do is talking points for the day. And if you look at, if you click on this where it says Technology News Talking Points, there'll be an archive of the notes for a particular day, like the 18th, the 11th. Sometimes I'll put a description out beside it, like when we did Ray Morris's computer, when we did the Lenovo Flex 5. The old website is still there. It has a more thorough search. I'm in the process of trying to fix that. But because I spend so much time doing the videos, that's where I concentrate my time. So in terms of doing a clean install, you know, we've got one up here about right there, Macrium Reflect, what I call the 3 M's. That particular video, I did it with this HP Envy, and there's 3 ways. With whatever process you use, there's the manufacturer, there's Microsoft, and there's Macrium. And each one of those has their place and purpose. And this was when we were going from Windows 10 1703 to 1709. The same thing will still apply. If you do at the vendor's plan, which for this computer was HP, there's Microsoft's plan, and then there's Macrium Reflect. It's a good idea about every 6 months, which is what we've always said, to do a clean install. I'm probably stretching that out a little bit now that we have an NVMe drive. I don't do that as often as I used to. Now this machine, when we purchased this, I said when I did the video on it, unboxing and setup, when it comes time in about 6 months, that's exactly what I would do. But what I would do is, because there's a spinning drive in here, I would pull the spinning drive out and I would put an SSD because I can't put an NVMe. And at that time, when I put an SSD, I'd do 2 things. I'd do a clean install, but I would change the operating system from home to pro. And I don't have to worry about the key, because the key, if I stay the same version, is there. But if I need a new key, I'll go to SCD key and buy a new key. But once the key is activated in Windows 10, it's on Microsoft Server, as long as I keep the same version of Windows. In other words, if I do another install of Home, I can install Home as much as I want, clean. But if I decide to go to Pro, I've got to go buy a new key. But once Microsoft has that key, then I can do the same thing. I can do Pro as many times as I want. So does that help? Okay. Folks, I want to thank you for coming today. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be here again next week, and in 2 weeks we're going to have a guest speaker. I want to thank you for joining us, and for those of you online, thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for your time.
Gil, who is you told me who the guest speaker is, but I don't know anything about him. What is he?
Ralph Gonzalez. Ralph Gonzalez was a guest speaker. We had him about a month ago, and he's retired from law enforcement. And he talked to us because a lot of senior citizens get taken advantage of. He did a presentation about how to make sure that that doesn't happen again, that doesn't occur. His next presentation is how to keep your house safe from burglars. Now me, I have a Smith & Wesson 3000. It works great. It's a 12 gauge. Did I say that online?